Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
And you're very welcome along to this week's edition of Friday Night Racing. It's Ger Gilroy and Johnny Ward with you. As ever, if you want to get in touch, you can text us live during the show on WhatsApp 087 918 180 or indeed this evening on 53106. Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Check out hri.ie or you can follow the Twitter account at HRI Racing and the hashtag is every racing moment. I'm delighted to say our guest this week is Gavin Ryan. Gavin, how are you getting on? What's the crack?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. You are somebody who has burst out of lockdown and into the form of your life. So whatever you did in that period when nobody was able to do anything, it's certainly working for you.
Yeah, no, look, things are going great since we got back racing. So I'm getting great support off a lot of trainers, and obviously the winners are coming as well. So no, I couldn't really be much happier at the minute. You're
in a sweet spot where the winners are coming. What's the confidence levels like?
Confidence is great, but no, as I said, it's down to getting the ride for great trainers on a very nice calibre of horse. So confidence is obviously high when you're riding Flows Connections.
How could you quantify that, Gavin? I know you're not long into the life of a jockey, but how important is it to go out there on the back of that confidence you're talking about and genuinely kind of believe in having maybe that extra 5 or 10% mentally, whereas the jockey who's every bit as capable, who isn't riding the calibre of horse, what's the difference like, do you think?
Well, look, you can only make them go so fast, but obviously if you're riding horses with good pedigrees and you're riding for good people, you know they're going to be in peak condition. And like as I said, if you're on a horse that's well fancied in a race, you're obviously going to be going out with a lot more confidence than if you're on one that's not. So when you're riding for good connections on good horses, it just boosts your confidence straight away, and everything you ride you consider has a chance.
And are you maybe inclined to take more risks in a race, or kind of maybe ride a bit more ballsy, I suppose, because you're having such a good run and you just have that kind of inner belief?
Well, that's it exactly, Johnny. I think it's you just ride a little bit more relaxed and you don't panic or anything like that, and you just let the race unfold a little bit better. I think the overall then is that you can ride a better race because you're not panicking, and the results seem to come that bit better then as well.
It's actually counterintuitive a little bit. It's almost, you don't need to be as ballsy if the horse is that good. You don't need to take those risks because you know that the horse that you have under you is powerful.
Well, that's it. When you know you have a good horse under you, can just, as I said, you can relax into a little bit better, take your time, and if they're good enough, they'll win.
Can we go back a little bit, Gavin, to the bit where you decided that you wanted to be a jockey and were good at this? What's your own pedigree in terms of racing? Do you come from a racing background?
No, I come from no racing background whatsoever. I started riding out for local trainers around Kilnall, and obviously I started on ponies before that. But that, as I said, I had no racing background, so I got into it through that way.
So the first time you went pony racing and got up on a pony, how did that happen? Who brought you along? Was that kind of friends, neighbours? What was the background to that?
Yeah, that was exactly. We've neighbours, good friends of ours as well. They'd often go pony racing the weekends, and I suppose I kind of started to tag along then as well. I suppose one thing led to another, and eventually then I was kind of going every weekend. But I only done pony racing now for a season. It was a good help to me, but before that then I always had big interest in ponies and show jumping and eventing. So
on telly, as opposed to going to and taking part in, were you
Well, on telly, but I suppose I was competing at that from a young enough age. I suppose I started competing at that when I was about 12 or 13. So I done that for a good number of years.
What kind of clicked in your head then? Because your background sounds like you're completely from a horsey background, yet you're not. So what was it that made you do this instead of maybe playing hurling or whatever?
Well, I think size was one thing. I was never going to be big enough.
Richie Hogan's a good hurler.
He is, that's true. But I suppose he might have a little more talent on his side as well. So, no, look, as I said, I always loved horses, and if a weekend came and I had a match or to go competing, I would definitely went competing. So horses was always kind of my number one priority from a younger age. So I never really had to think twice about it.
Did that surprise your parents, that you had that interest, or did it take them by surprise? Was it out of the blue, or?
It wasn't really out of the blue, because it was something I always wanted to do when I was younger, and it just was something that I was kind of getting more and more into as the time went on. Now I suppose they were always trying to sway me away from it, and keep me on the books and stuff. But no, I think deep down they knew that eventually that's the way my life was going to pan out.
So was there show jumping in the family?
There was ponies in the family.
Right.
Like my dad, he had a lot to do with ponies when he was younger and stuff. And same thing, kind of show jumping that, but he gave up once he had the chance. He was never too hooked on it, whereas I was the opposite. As soon as I got a chance, I fell in love with it. And obviously dad was great, supported me, brought me to shows every weekend. So no, as I said, I started that young, and I stayed going until I started racing.
Okay, and so you did eventing from 13 and show jumping at that stage. When did you do your first season pony racing?
First season pony racing, I was 15, heading for 16, and that was my first season pony racing. But as I said, I only done it for a season, and then I went down to Jim Bolger's in the August of that year.
So that was that.
And then
that was it.
That,
yeah. And look, that's kind of I'm playing Sunday league football, and all of a sudden Real Madrid are in, and you're like, can I go? Is it okay if I go? Can I go? That must have been pretty cool. How did that come about?
That came about, a very close friend of ours, and again a neighbour, Paul Kavanagh, would have been good friends with Ronan Whelan's dad, Tom, and Paul kind of suggested that I go down to Boulders. He said it was going to be a great place to learn, and he said no matter what happened, it would be something very good to have in your CV. So he made the call to Tom Whelan to obviously ask Ronan would he be able to get me in down there, and thankfully Ronan got me down very quickly. Actually, I think it was all in the space of a few weeks. It got me a spot in there, and then I was there as an apprentice.
And is that a done deal when you get in as an apprentice, or is there like a couple of weeks where you kind of have to prove yourself and you're thinking, okay, I'm good enough to cut it here, because they don't take anybody?
Well, of course, yeah. Look, it's like everything. You go down there, and obviously, Mr. Bolger, he wouldn't know you really from Adam, I suppose. So you do have to prove yourself in some regard. You kind of go down there just for a job, and then obviously hoping you could make it into an apprentice. And I suppose he'd let you know fairly quickly if you will or you won't. So yeah, no, he thankfully he said I might be okay.
What's he like as a kind of a man manager? Does he? Because I imagine he's not like showering you with compliments either. So is he a nice boss, I suppose?
Yeah, he is. I suppose he'd call it as he sees it. I think that's probably the best way to do it. There's no point being under any illusions. So no, look, he's very fair, and he's obviously very good to me. He gave me lots of opportunities, but at the back of it, he's a good man. He only wants what's best for you. So no, he calls it, you see it, and he doesn't hold any secrets, and he'll let you know if you're wrong. But as I said, I think that's the best way to be. Obviously,
Tony McCoy, Paul Carberry, Aidan O'Brien, all these characters have come through that nursery. What is it about Coolcullen that not only makes you a better jockey, but I suppose prepares you for life as well?
Well, that's why I always said he molds as a rider, but he also molds as a person. Like he doesn't take any messing. He knows what it takes to succeed in the game. So look, he's been around the block, and as I said, he knows what you have to do and what you have to be to be successful in it. So he makes sure that he gets the best out of you while you're there, and sets you onto the right path for life. So no, he's very good. And are you conscious of the fact that so many great people have come through there? Is that something that you think about when you're there? Like I'm obviously asking you to put yourself back in the mindset when you get down there and you're a couple of months in, and are you always kind of reminded about the fact that this is one of those dream factories? Yeah, well, look, everyone who's been through there has obviously been very successful. So the first thing you think of is kind of, if I could learn half as much as what they know, you might be all right. So that's what you're always trying to learn down there, and try to pick up everything that's crucial, and just taking everything on board. And as I said, he's made it work for so many others that if you can take half it, you'll be okay.
A load of people make it that far and then get a little bit complacent because they've made it that far and they think that, look, you know, I'm here now, I've proved everything I had to do, I won those races, pony racing, and I'm making the weight and I'm looking after myself, and can get a little bit complacent. What did you do to stop yourself getting complacent to make sure that you kicked on to the point you are now?
Well, as I said, Mr. Bolger, you keep your feet firmly on the ground, so I don't think there was ever any fear of that. He'd make sure you stay well grounded.
Obviously, after Jim's, you moved on to Donnacha O'Brien. Is it trainers are trainers, but is it a totally different kind of operation in Cashel compared to what you were used to in Coolcullen? Do they have similarities? Obviously, Jim is at sort of that stage of his career where he's seen it all, done it all, and obviously Donnacha has literally just started off and was riding. He's probably the youngest trainer in the country. Is it completely different? I've obviously visited both yards and they would seem a bit different.
Yeah, look, they are different, but I suppose they're probably not a million miles apart in the people. Like, they're both great horsemen. They're both there to win and whatnot. But look, they're very different. It's hard to pinpoint what's different about it, but I suppose there's two different fields and two different yards. One's a really well established operation. The other's, as you said, just starting out. So I suppose then there's two different teams of people in the two different yards as well. I know a lot of the people in Bolgers have been there pretty much a lifetime. They've been there from the beginning, and as I said, it's a yard that's been there a long time. So obviously, Donnacha is just starting out, and it's a fresh yard, and a lot of the staff are kind of newish staff as well. So yeah, no, there is similarities, but there's also a lot of differences too.
That's what struck me about being in Donnacha's, was the amount of people he poached from Aidan, workers like Damien, the head lad, who's been, I think he said he was at Aidan 19 years or something, and it just struck me that it's almost like for somebody like, not so much yourself, but for kind of the workers, it's like, I have a very good job here, but there's a new company after starting out, and it's kind of exciting. Don't really know what's going to happen, but you did get that feeling that this was a journey that was very much in its infancy, and Donnacha had already had like his French Classic winner, his Group 1 winner, his this or that at that stage, and you're at your own very, very, like, I suppose similarities with the Irish management team here, all these people starting out in their own professions, but you are part of a really exciting journey with a trainer who is just a blank canvas.
Yeah, exactly, Johnny. Look, as I said, things are very much just starting out there, and together as a team, I suppose it's a very kind of fresh team. They're all starting out and starting to gel together. But look, things are very exciting. It's obviously we've a lot of really nice horses with serious pedigrees. So to be involved with a yard like that going forward is very exciting.
How did it happen?
Obviously, my 3 years term was finishing down in Boulders, and at the time I didn't know Donnacha was giving up and going training. So he asked me what I was thinking about doing next year, and I hadn't really thought about it, to be quite honest. So he told me then that he was hoping to finish up the end of the year and go training. So obviously then, I suppose I kind of found out that he was after kind of training with Aidan and whatnot, and he then went on to say if I had any interest coming down, that there'd be a space there for me. So obviously I took that chance with both hands, and I was over the moon to get an opportunity to go down to a yard like that, you know. So no, that's how it happened. That's how it came about. And
was it like kind of going into the principal's office and admitting that you'd done something when Mr. Bolger had to be told the news, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, no, I suppose it was. Look, he was very good to me, and obviously I was a little bit nervous saying it to him, because I obviously I was very grateful to him for everything he'd done, but I think he knew as well that the opportunity that was after being granted was one that I wasn't going to turn down. Like, I couldn't turn down either. So I suppose he probably wasn't overly impressed that I was leaving, but at the same time he knew it was the right choice. So obviously I was nervous saying it to him, but no, it was an opportunity that we both knew I think was the right decision.
That's the cycle as well, Jaron, that Jim tried to keep Aidan O'Brien all those years ago, didn't want him to leave, and then he loses a jockey to Aidan's son all those years later, and the cycle continues.
Yeah, well, look, it's great to be part of it. I mean, I presume he didn't want him to leave because he had an idea this guy's going to go on to become the greatest trainer of all time. It's like another rival. But it's great that you're all part of the same story. Gavin, what does it mean for people who are tuning in to be an apprentice jockey at this stage? You're in the process of riding out your claim. Can you just explain to people who kind of are a little bit unfamiliar with how that process works? Where in the process are you, and how does it work, and when does that come to a finish?
But I suppose like you start out with a £10 claim, and I suppose the biggest thing is improving your riding before you start getting loads of winners. And I suppose that was a big thing with me, with a lot of help from my agent Dave Keena. He held on to my claim and let it go accordingly to how I was riding and how much improvement I was making, because I think that's a big thing, especially in Ireland. There's not a whole pile of chances, so as your claim is reduced, there's always lads coming on behind you with more of a claim and are very good riders. So I think that's a big thing, that when your claim is kind of going down, when you're dropping from 7 to 5 and 5 to 3, your riding has to be improving with it, because you still have to be of value for your claim to get rides and get good opportunities. So I said that was hats off to Dave Keena. I think I've 74 winners now, and I think at the start of this year I might have had about 42. So he's let my claim go according to how I was riding, and obviously this year he felt that I was doing good enough to maybe try and get rid of my claim. So I think that's the main thing, and the biggest thing in Irish racing is you have to be value for your claim. So that was pretty much it. We just had to let my claim go once I was improving.
So you've ridden your claim out now, and that's it?
Not yet. He's still claiming 3, so he's
right.
He's still claiming 3. Yeah, I still have. I think I've 22 or 21 left in it. So
are you afraid of that day when it's gone? You look at some jockeys who are forever really trying to lose their claim, and obviously some of them need to lose it because of weight issues, but that is the big it's like we're talking about Adam Ida and Troy Part making that next step up to senior level. It's once you lose your claim. Is it any concern to you, because you've had, I think you're 5th in the jockey's title, which is kind of incredible, partly down to your claim obviously, but there is that fear that everyone wants me because I can take weight off. Now, obviously, that's gone, so I'm just another jockey. But are you confident that it'll be okay because you've had such a good season, obviously?
Yeah, look, it's always going to be a little worried, but I wouldn't say I'm overly worried about it, for the simple reason is that I think it's a stage that it's always going to happen at some stage, whether it's sooner or later. And I think now I'm ready for it, and I'm riding with loads of confidence. So I think I'm ready to take that step. And obviously, I'm in a great yard in Donnacha. So I think I'm ready for it to go, and I wouldn't be at all nervous.
Probably okay. It is something that I think for non-racing people, it's something that they probably, if you told them about it, it's quite intriguing that you've this like £10 claimer down to the the senior jockey. Like £10 taken off a horse's back is massive. Like, it's so good. So if a trainer, and a lot of trainers will try to like pinpoint these jockeys that are very good value for the claim, that are effectively as good as or nearly as good as or better than some of the top jockeys, but yet can take £5 off a horse's back, which is like...
So all the horses have room on their saddle for weights.
Yeah,
and everybody gets a certain amount of weight so that they're all at the same weight.
Yeah,
and if you've got a claimer, you can take weights out.
You literally take weights. If the horse is like 9 stone 6 and you've a £10 claimer, the horse suddenly has 8 stone 10. So that like £10 is £10 is £10, but when you're talking about such small margins in races, like, and what I still love, like, the fact that you will have a 3 mile chase, and after 3 miles, and if you run or cycle or do anything, 3 miles is actually a fair bit, but you can put like a 20 runner horse race, and 3 of them after 3 miles can be split by the width of a paper, and that's where your claim. So if you're like slogging up the hill at Navan after the Troytown, and some lad is claiming 5 off your back as you go up that hill in the final 100 yards, which can take about 2 years at times at Navan, the claim makes a big difference. And Gavin is still claiming 3, despite the fact that people would now say, well, he's as good nearly as anyone out there, or certainly close.
And so when do you think you'll stop claiming 3? When does that happen?
I Sure, look, I suppose it all depends how many winners I can ride between now and the end of the year. But I'd be kind of confident that I'd be able to hopefully lose it by the end of 2020. I suppose that would be kind of my aim. So we'll just see how it goes. But I think that would probably be a realistic aim.
Galway was pretty good for you.
Yeah, Galway was great. And again, I got great support in Galway. I got to ride.
Typical tip, man. He pronounces Galway as Galway, which is
annoying to the Galway people. Keep going. Listen to him.
Yeah, so no, look, I got great support. I rode a lovely winner to start the week off on a Prince Caliber Dollar horse for Mr. Weld. With a lovely pedigree, and then I suppose.
Well, that was actually. You should mention that. Sorry to interrupt. That was a seriously good ride. Like that was, and that photo finish went on nearly as long as your leaving cert.
Which one is this?
Centroid. So it beat a horse that subsequently bolted up at Tremor, but it was one of these really interesting races that Gavin went around the inner, and the horse finished second, was held up and came up the outer, and it got me thinking about like the data that we could have, like if jockeys had like the equivalent of
GPS.
So basically, what actual distance did I cover? Because Gavin basically and held on then. The photo must have gone on for 5-7 minutes maybe, and you must have had real delight at that one, Gavin.
Yeah, look, that was a long photo finish, but I suppose even later in the week, Saltonstall, his one went on even longer. So I suppose I was having it was definitely a week that there was plenty of sweating done in the parade ring afterwards because they were two tight finishes. But no, thankfully I came out and top in both of them. But as I said, it's a nerve-wracking moment because like you have to get in the chance, and there's a lot of people kind of counting on you. So when it's down to that fine detail, you could be a hero or you could be a loser. So yeah, no, it's definitely a nerve-wracking moment.
I watched back Saltonstall and actually had found the previous year he wins in a photo finish as well. That's mad.
Yeah. I think I finished third to him the year before. So
were you and Ozzy Valentine the previous year?
No, I was on a horse of Sheila Lavery's called Quizzical.
Jared just wanted to bring up Ozzy Valentine because he's in association with it, of course.
We met before, of course, on that day in Leopardstown. It was great.
Yeah.
Come here though, the Saltonstall. I did want to talk about that because I didn't realise that you'd already gone through the excruciating pain of waiting to see what happened. So, what are those 5 minutes actually like? Are you listening to what people are saying? Do you remember any conversation, or would you all just shut up until this result comes through?
Well, there's a lot of thoughts going through, and I suppose with him, it's my biggest thought was I've rode him a lot of times, and he's kind of a favourite of mine. But like he's for great connections for Ado McGuinness and Stephen Thorne, Dooley Thoroughbreds, and they've kept me on him without winning for I suppose it's since he won in Galway last year. So I suppose near a year's anniversary that I've been riding him, and I still hadn't managed to get his head in front. So I suppose when we came that close, I was kind of really rooting for his head to be in front. But as I said, like when you finish that close, it's very nerve-wracking. To be honest, I thought it was beat, so I was very nervous now when I was in the parade ring.
You'd come back from the depths of hell. That's that race, isn't it? I'm right. Yeah, so that was this year's where.
Yeah.
He looked dead and buried about, I don't know, 50 metres out from the line.
Mad Galway, like.
He's a horse, I suppose. He loves it around there, and I had to kind of ride for complete luck because he jumped okay, but there was a lot of hustle and bustle early on, and I just had to drop him out last pretty much. And I was taking gaps as they came, and I was kind of half worried if they'd come at all. And then when I got into the straight, he just seemed to find gears that I've never seen him find before, and he quickened up real well and hit the line well. But as I said, I still thought I was after getting there too late, and I was just I suppose when the result was called, it was probably one of the biggest reliefs in my life now, to be honest. But no, it was great. But as I said, it was those 5 minutes in the parade ring that they felt like a lot longer, and I suppose you could hear a pin drop. There was no crowd then or anything as well, so no, it was an eerie feeling.
I'm sure, but ultimately you come out the right side of two in the same week like that. That might be using up a bit of luck for a little while. That's or else it's just that's the way it works. Our guest is Gavin Ryan. You're listening to Friday Night Racing here, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Gavin, we had a great chat recently with Barry Garrity talking about experience, and he was talking about how he's a better rider. Like, this was at the most recent Cheltenham Festival just before he announced his retirement. So obviously stuff like those races where you're in a losing position and you win, that's the only thing you can do to kind of cheat the experience, is to go through those things and then try and absorb as much as you possibly can. It must be difficult in a week like Galway, though, where you have five winners and end up as the leading jockey, to fully absorb all the lessons that you're actually acquiring.
Well, that's it. But as I said, obviously every day you ride, you're learning a bit more. But I think like a big thing is like, as you kind of go through your career, and obviously I'm very very early on in mine. But when you're riding with confidence and you're getting trusted by good owners and good trainers, it gives you that confidence. And as I said, you kind of relax into your races. And I think that's a major bit of experience you can have. You kind of take it as it's coming rather than forcing something to happen. I think that's kind of a great position to be in. So, but look, I suppose then, like Galway, 5 winners, you're learning every day, and you're learning more about riding a track like Galway. But when Galway's over, you're on to the next meeting. So it's very hard to kind of look back at it and say, oh, I done this wrong, I done this right. But I suppose you're just kind of picking up bits as you go along, and hoping you'll be able to remember as much of it as you can. But it's definitely the more rides you're getting, the more winners you're riding, is the more you're improving. So yeah.
You're definitely doing something right. Anyway, Marcus texted in here to say, stupid question alert, why wouldn't you just have claimers ride all your horses? It must be like football clubs scouting out the quality youngsters. Get loads of quality young claimers and you have a big advantage over the old stagers.
Yeah, that's not a stupid question, actually, because if Gavin wins 2 races by photo finishes, he's not going to win. Like, it doesn't make any sense if he were to win them without the £3 claim, because you're talking the finest possible margin of victory. So £3 it should make that difference. So yeah, Gavin won those races because he had a claim.
And also brilliant rides.
The flip side of that is Adam Ida might be the best striker that Ireland will ever have. Adam Ida, right? But at the moment, he isn't, right? So I have this unbelievably talented guy, but he's not really ready for senior football, or at least he's not able to play Ida as well as he will be, because he's not fully developed either physically, and these lads are kids, a lot of them are like 16, 17, as he will be. So he's also more likely probably to make mistakes because he lacks experience. Geraghty was saying he argues that he was riding as well this year as he was.
Better, he said.
I'm not sure about that. I think like a national hunt jockey at that age. But Gavin claiming 3 is probably, but there are other jockeys claiming 7 that
aren't ready for it.
They're just not ready for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's a fair question.
Well, they might not have had the experience and expertise that Gavin's built up to be able to come back from the losing situation.
You also have to be able, like Donnacha was, of saying, I'm earmarking this guy as a talent. So it's also the judgment of the person who's picking the claimer, because you can pick a £10 claimer who's just not good enough, and that £10 off the horse may as well be 100. So and that's just being kind of truthful about it.
Gavin, viewers of Off the Ball are going to be familiar with your story because they probably have seen you were one of the apprentice jockeys who we did a film with about your leaving cert. Ended up getting viewed hundreds of thousands of times. How was the experience for you of actually doing the leaving cert and being an apprentice jockey at the same time? Because it seems like, it's a very difficult juggling act.
Yeah, look, I suppose at the time we were just taking it day by day and just getting through it. We didn't really think about it a whole pile. But then I suppose looking back and you think, geez, there was a lot going on then, like, and I suppose this year then there's a lot more time for racing and whatnot, and obviously I think it's shown in results that you're a bit more clued in than with everything. And as I said, last year I didn't realise that you had so much on your plate and you were just taking it day by day. But no, I'm definitely glad it's over.
Were you still with Jim Bolger at that point? When did you move to Donnacha's? Was it after that? So.
After that, yeah, I moved to Donnacha's in December, so I was still in Bolger's of all the way through school.
Well, when I was involved in the kind of interviews those days, and it was this Andrew Slattery, Ben Cohen, and Gavin, who were all from Tipperary, and Ben Cohen he wasn't actually I asked him what day his leaving starts starting, and he said, it's Friday next week. And then one of the other lads said, Ben, it's actually Wednesday. So he was less than a week away from the leaving cert, but he didn't know what day his first exam was. And the 3 of them, despite a disgracefully questionable commitment to their studies, actually did very well. And I like they're actually quite they'd probably be getting very good points if they weren't just mad into horse racing. But the funny thing is as well, if you look at the Cross family, there's just a plethora, and I'm probably missing someone as well, a plethora of young riders from Tipperary at the moment. So, like, it's a really hot time for the Premier County in terms of young jockeys.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, we've Nathan Cross, Shane Cross, myself, Ben Cohn, Andy Slattery, and then there's a few lads in the jumping game as well. But no, look, we've a great bunch of lads coming from Tips, so I'm sure it's great.
Any reason why? Like, is it just a coincidence?
I think it's just a coincidence, yeah.
Ben and Andrew are first cousins, aren't they?
They are, yeah. Ben's mother and Andrew's dad are brother and sister.
Have they? Have you a kind of a nice, friendly, like, WhatsApp rivalry or whatever between you? Because you were roughly on a par last year. I think it's fair to say you've obviously had a better year than the other two, just because you've had an unbelievable campaign. But what's your relationship like, the three of you?
Look, we get on great. And look, yeah, I'm having a good year. But Ben was hot on my heels now, and unfortunately he got a fall and fractured his collarbone in Sligo. I think it was about a month back now. But he's hopefully he'll return in the next, I suppose, week or two. So it'll be great to see him back, and he's doing good. So that's the main thing. But he was giving things a great kick this year as well. And as I said, I think he was only a winner or two behind me when he got a fall. So he was having a great campaign too. But we all get on great. We have a great friendship, and we have done for years. So no, it's great. It's great to have one another.
Gavin, you're at a stage of your life where everything is class, where you're riding some of the best horses, and as part of a startup in a really old industry, it's a very unusual scenario to be in. It must be unbelievably exciting. Do you have somebody you can talk to who is in the game and is a bit older and is a bit separate, like a mentor type figure that you can actually just bounce things off and kind of, because there's going to be speed bumps at some point along the way. There are in everybody's career. Is there somebody like that you can kind of tap into their wisdom?
Yeah, look, I'm very lucky. I'm in a great place. Like I've loads of people to talk to. Willie Supple's a good friend of mine. He's really been around the block. Ronan Whelan has helped me since the start, so he's another good role model. There's obviously Donnacha who's been there, done that, and he's a great mentor. Agent Dave Keane is very good. So we've Pooch Manning, Donald Manning riding out in the yard, and as I said, he was very successful riding as well. So there's loads of people there that I can talk to and bounce things off. So no, I'm very lucky. And
are you reading the books of the famous jockeys who've gone before you, just to kind of see what some of the mistakes they made and learn from those?
I think I've nearly read them all cover to cover now at this stage.
What's your favourite?
Most people have. Actually, Kieran Fallon's book was great. It mightn't have been the greatest life lessons in it now, but it was definitely a great read.
I think I actually was reading that recently myself. Like, it's I don't know. Again, we're talking about the cycle, like how his son is getting on, Kieran as well. But like, it was probably better than anything you studied in the Leaving Cert reading Kieran Fallon's book, because like this is what can go wrong, you know. And in fairness to Fallon, he's very honest. He's like, well, I made this mistake, I made that mistake, and you're probably a bit more stable than him, but you learned something from that book.
And of course, yeah. Look, he's a wicked successful career. Looking back and considering what he was going through, like he was going through a lot, but it was a great read, and he'd a lot of grey areas in his life, and he spoke about them all. So no, it was definitely a great read, and he was very honest and very open in it. So it definitely tells you what not to do anyway.
What do you make of his son?
Kieran, he's a great rider. He's after getting a really good job in second jockey to Qatar after losing his claim. But look, he's after having endless big winners, and horses are really running for him. So he's a great head and his shoulders, and I think his dad is great lad, pointing in the right direction, and as I said, tell him what not to do. So no, I'm sure he'll be very successful.
You really need to teach them how to spell their names, though.
Well, it's a tricky one, in fairness, getting the Kieran right. But he actually is like he's like his father in so many ways, even in the saddle. Except he's just probably he's just more grounded out of it, and Kieran, his dad, would be able to. And it's interesting that Gavin has read that book because it's a brilliant education, not only for a jockey but for a person.
Well, I think the other thing that we talk about all the time is that most of your career you're going to be losing, and that is something that you just have to get used to. Like those 5 minutes where you were waiting, where it was hero or you'd lost, like the spin of a dial, and all of a sudden your mood changes and the mood of everybody around you changes, and it's like quite a lot of money at stake, and it's going to be increasingly that. So you need to become a bit bulletproof to those situations, and yet at the same time you also have to live, so you need to enjoy them and you need to feel the pain and disappointment of defeat. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you can learn a template for that, really.
Yeah, well, I think it was A.P. McCoy once said, he might have rode the most winners, but he's without a doubt definitely had the most losers on top of that. So no, it's definitely something you have to deal with, and I suppose any day of a bad day you just have to look forward to the next day and kind of put it in the past. Like once you cross that line, there's nothing you can change. If the race is over, so there's nothing you can do about it. Then obviously you can learn from it and try not to make those mistakes again, but you can't fix the results. So I think you have to be level-headed and just be able to move forward and look to the next race, or the next horse, or next exciting day's race, and that's always like there's no point looking back. There's no point looking back because, as I said, there's nothing you can do about it. So no, it's definitely just have to keep moving forward and keep looking into the future.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. And allow yourself to dream big as well. Like we've had Donnacha in, we've had Joseph in as well, and certainly with Donnacha, we knew from just listening to him and the way it was going that he was struggling with the weight, and that he was already looking at training. He'd already been kind of emotionally invested in that side of the game. But you do get the sense of somebody who, in his instance, is standing on the verge of one of the truly great all-time careers as a trainer, and you're right there in the mix to be the jockey on many of the horses that he's involved with. So you must be allowing yourself at various stages to dream and to push yourself on, and that to be your ambition.
Of course, yeah. Look, you have to dream and you have to have goals, but we take every day as it comes. But obviously, like there's a lot of things you'd love to happen, whether they will or not, you don't know. But it's definitely a good thing to have is to have dreams and something to aim for. So no, look, I'm in a great place at the moment. So hopefully things can stay moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. We wish you all the very best of luck, Gavin. Thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks, million lads. Thank you.
It's,
all the best.
Gavin Ryan there, who is an apprentice jockey in, I'd say it must be one of the most exciting places in the racing world.
It's a lovely atmosphere there as well, and he doesn't actually train that many horses, so like Ballydoyle is kind of more like almost like a factory, because there's so many horses there, and it's like how Aidan can remember not only the horses' names as they go around, but the people's names. I mean, and these are people that maybe come from all sorts of parts of the world as well, and he remembers them, whereas Joseph's is similar, but Donnacha's then is like he's a much smaller string, and I'm intrigued as to how much he wants to grow that string, because I don't think he wants it to get to a stage where he's like 200 runners, because I honestly don't know how Joseph does that. He's flat hand jumps, whereas Donnacha has like, I don't know, 40 or 50 or something, and it's a lovely atmosphere down there. You can hear the train going by on the line to wherever it is but that's, other than that, there's really no sound, and the people working there.
Is that in Tip as well?
That's near Cashel, so it'd be probably near the
Junction.
Yeah, and it'd be definitely that line anyway. But then you've the fact that Donnacha is a boss to people that are like twice his age and are in the game twice as long, and it just works fine because he's just a good, humble fella. And like, I think what shines through from Gavin there is that he knows that he's doing exceptionally well, and he's gotten the
5 winners in Galway.
Yeah, and like winning photo finishes and like
at 20.
Yeah, riding good horses. He knows that things are really going well for him.
I don't know, did we make it clear that he's only 20 there? We didn't.
Yeah.
We were talking to somebody who, like,
I didn't even know he was that, because they only did his leaving
turned 20 in June.
Even
started last year.
Yeah. We had Dylan Brown McMonigal on earlier in the season, like, and he's claiming 7, and he looks like he's going to be like top class. But if you just ask any seasoned horseman or horsewoman, he'll tell you, or she'll tell you, I've seen these apprentices come and go. Name me all the champion apprentices, and a lot of them didn't have great careers. So Gavin knows that he has to remain grounded, and I think he's in the right place.
Yeah, but already he has winners for Coolmore, the Aga Khan, and Judgment.
Khaled Abdullah, yeah.
It's not bad. It's not
bad.
No,
but
Is that group now ready to hit the level of Johnny Murtagh and Mick Canaan? Like, is there a gap for them to come out and go, sorry lads, you all had your chance, you missed it, we're the new kids in town?
Yeah, well, I suppose what's interesting is that, Ryan Moore hasn't been in Ireland much this year because of the COVID situation, and that has allowed Seamie Heffernan more opportunities. Seamie Heffernan then got a ban.
Ryan Moore's 36
in
as well.
France. Ryan Moore's 36. Now, I'm sure he'll ride for at least 10 years or whatever, but Seamie Heffernan then got a ban. So Wayne Lorden started picking up loads of rides for...
Seamie Heffernan 48?
Ballydoyle, yeah. So do you have...
Lorden 38.
Yeah, so in fairness, Gavin could conceivably ride for another 30 years and be very good. Canaan,
that's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, Canaan, and you could be riding for 35 years, effectively 16 to 51, say, and do well. But he's just, I think an awful lot of it is temperament. Like you mentioned Fallon there. Like Fallon had a tendency to do the wrong things out of the saddle, and effectively, and he was brilliant in it. But he had that kind of that red mist streak in him. I don't get that impression from Gavin Ryan. And that's going to, the jockey who's, whatever Gavin will be as a jockey, if you can kind of stay on the right road and not, like if you put yourself in, you were talking about when we were younger, if you were 20 years of age and all these things were happening to you, you can easily, get ahead of yourself and become arrogant. But racing's a great game to keep it grounded, because you could win a Group 1, the best race of your career, but literally 10 minutes later you're in the parade ring to ride in a 0 to 60 or whatever it is.
Totally. But Kieran Fallon's book might not be the best one to read in terms of a life lesson, but Johnny Murtagh's life story is incredible, and he has lived and seen all those sides of excess.
Absolutely. I was in Johnny's yard last week, and it's Ben Cohen that he mentioned. He's one of the jockeys there. But Ben is obviously very, very talented guy, but has had that injury, so he's kind of coming back. But Shane Kelly, who was there, had a serious cocaine problem in his past that he's spoken about. He's doing really well. Johnny Murtagh's come through his own difficulties or whatever. The man would put a guy in death row, he'd put him in good form. He's that happy and he's so enthusiastic. And the morning I visited the yard, I was kind of I was tired, it was early, and get up early, blah 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 blah, and straight away he puts you, and Johnny is able to kind of, I suppose, be a mentor to the jockeys in that yard. He's a lot of jockeys there, and it's like a team. They're all fighting for rides. And Gavin is part of a team in Donnacha's as well that, they're just going to keep you grounded. And Donnacha is probably a great boss, despite the fact that he's so young.
Right. Dashing Diamonds finish in second place last week landed the place part of our each way Tote Irish Injured Jockeys fun bet last weekend at Navan, adding €100 to the pot, which now stands at €2,090. We're over the €2,000 mark, Johnny. Well done. All those weeks of us not gambling and putting the €100 aside have finally paid off. We're over the £2,000. Good man.
This is a bit of a frustrating one, because this horse was to run in Sligo, about 3 weeks, a month ago, and it was unquestionably a weaker race than last Saturday, and it was a 16 to 1 shot. And I told a load of people, this is a great bet, really good bet. And there were 2 or 3 races left, and they abandoned the card because I think it was a bit slippy on one of the bends.
That's right, yeah, the horses were getting injured, I think, weren't they?
Yeah, so last Saturday it was beaten half a length in to me, a much more competitive race in Navan, and it was 8 to 1, which I couldn't really get my head around, because it was it should be a bigger price than it was in Sligo, but she's just ready to win. She did very little wrong, and it was a great run.
And finished second.
Trained by Martin Hastert, who'd be a big fan of Tip Hurling and probably pronounces the county Galway as well.
This week we have another €100 charity bet courtesy of Tote. Tote customers can now enjoy account betting through tote.ie, the new home of Irish pool betting. Log on to tote.ie to find out more. What's our bet this week?
We're going to go with Ballinrobe. Ballinrobe has the McHale sponsorship of the big race, and Ballinrobe is a brilliant racetrack in terms of getting local support, sponsoring all race meetings, and one of these, the COVID situation has been so hard for so many people across the world and all that, and at the more minor level of a race course, it's sad to see Ballinrobe, which is such a social occasion, have all these meetings with no one there. So they're a great racetrack, and as I said, the McHale sponsorship of the big race Sunday is staggering prize money, really. But I'm going with Famous Escape in the 310. Let's give a shout out to Johnny Dunleavy, my mate, who tipped me up this horse 2 runs back at Ballinrobe when it was 25 to 1, and it absolutely bolted up, and fair play to him. And then it ran the following day in a better race, and shape really well. Rachel Blackmore takes over. She's running back against her own sex against the mares on Sunday. And yeah, Willie McCreary's brother Peter trains this horse. I'd give it a good chance.
Okay. What kind of
Actually,
odds?
I may have gotten the trainer wrong there. It's McHenry actually that trains it. It'll be 8-10 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're going each way?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, yeah, okay,
it'll
we're going each
be
way.
a D-tray price, yeah.
Yeah, so Tote customers, as I said, can now enjoy account betting through tote.ie, the new home of Irish pool betting. Log on to tote.ie to find out more. That is another episode of Friday Night Racing in the books. Every Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. Johnny, thanks very much.
Thanks, Millinger.
See you next week.
Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.